Hello and welcome to another week of the Tuesday Tic Talk with the Jungle Gyms podcast. It's myself, Anthony, doing the hosting tonight. Gavin has decided that he just doesn't want to do this gig anymore. He's just leaving it all up to me these days. I've got the marvellous, not so young James, but ever so slightly cooler with the tattoos. James, how you doing, pal?
I'm all good. How are you, Anthony?
Not too bad. Much like last week, probably a lot better this kind of weekend last week than we were earlier on in the summer window, transfer wise, and obviously performances and match wise. So we finished the weekend there. We've just beaten Dundee United 4-0 in the cup game. We'll save the suspense. We've got Rangers in the quarterfinal at Ibrox, which is going to be a good game, I'd imagine, especially since it's a double header. But before we get too ahead of ourselves with that, let's have we run through the goals in the game itself. 4-0 win, James. Let's just take your first impressions. How did you see the game?
I'm enjoying this season so far more than I did at this point last year. At this point last year, wasn't as fun. I think that we're playing decent enough football. I think it'll obviously come. We've got new players in there. We're learning how they play together. I think that we will get stronger and more fluid as the games disappear. Hopefully, LASK hasn't came too soon. We get a good result tomorrow night. That'll be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, without getting too ahead of ourselves, tomorrow night a good result to continue what I consider, much the same as yourself, a very good start to the season.
Yes.
Don't want to get carried away with it. The performances aren't fantastic. We still have the same issues in midfield. We still have some of the same issues out wide, perhaps a little bit less obvious this season so far. And obviously, defensively and goalkeeper-wise, we know there's a bit of work needed done, left back and goalkeepers. So we're not sugarcoating it. We're not pretending everything is rosy. But as far as, for me, where we finished last season, or rather just the whole of last season, really, and knowing how massive this preseason was needing to be, it has been a bit of a damp squib up until the last couple of weeks transfer-wise. But the way we've started the season, I think, all things considered, I think we've started fairly well. I mean, you can't ignore the issues that are still there. But we're overcoming those issues in a much better way. We're scoring plenty of goals. That's a 4-0 win and a 5-1 win the week before. We're looking defensively a little bit more steady, be that Carter Vickers is finding his feet in the team again, or just generally just another couple of weeks training with each other. It's just all working well. But that midfield for me still is lacking. So the game for me, as much as 4-0 is a good victory and it gets us through to the next round, I think a lot of people would agree. It flattered us. It didn't paint a good picture of the game, I think, in Dundee United's favour. End of the day, don't really care about Dundee United. But stats-wise, just very, very briefly, they seem to dominate possession, James, 53% to our 47. They had 11 shots, we had 9. Interestingly enough, technically they had 0 shots on target, but we all know they hit the woodwork 5 times, which doesn't count as on target on a technicality, although I always thought that would have. We had 8 of our 9 shots on target, so you can look at us being a little bit more clinical, and Dundee United being quite unfortunate, but you take that bit of luck, you take that bit of positivity from the game because you needed it. At times, Dundee United looked like they should have been getting more of that game than what 4-0 looks like, but we'll take it all day long. The goal scorers then, just quickly, Trusty, Duran, Tenetki and Nigren. I'm going to go through all 4 goals, James, but I want to bring you back in again. Just of those 4 goals, what was your pick of the bunch, do you know?
Probably in Grin, although special mention to Duran. I don't disagree with what you said. The 4-0 flattered us in the same way that 5-1 probably didn't flatter us the week before. I think that was some of that was down to no Engels, which meant that they were getting beyond our midfield, in between our midfield and our centre forwards. Sorry, our centre halves, and I think that was why Dundee United has so much possession and shots. I think that they could play that game another dozen times, and those 4 shots at the crossbar would go wide. Maybe 1 in 100 they would go in, but I think that we were the better team, but by a margin. I think that in Grin's goal, the play up to it, with even the back heel for Bauer, and then the slide pass in, and then Grin just pinged it in. So that was my favourite goal.
I'm probably going to agree with you, but I was watching it back earlier, and just before Bauer does that quite nice little back heel, was that back heel? Was it the underside of his boot?
I could have been.
His pass. It was a bit tasty, shall we say? But before he does that, it's actually a really nice bring down by Kalmak in the middle of the park to lay off to him. And it's something that I noted, and I maybe didn't think too much about it whilst watching the game live at the time. I don't think Kalmak was as guilty as coming so far back defensively. And that goal, that ball that he plays is him more in the more natural position he should be in, right in the middle of the pitch, rather than 20 yards further back sort of thing. So I'm not saying that goal doesn't happen without Kalmak or anything like that, but I think his involvement there is probably just as good as Bauer's. But Bauer's little backwards pass thing that he did was really tasty.
It was lovely. And I think in Grin looks, you still not got the engine that you require for a centre mid. He doesn't track back, but I think he's even went up a level from last year, and that's possibly because he's playing alongside better players like Ho and Duran. He's got better players round about him, and I think that's brought out some good stuff for Finn and Grin. I'll let you discuss your stats because I know how you like stats.
I do indeed. But before we get to the stats of Negrin, let's actually go through all 4 goals. So the first goal itself was Trusty, and funnily enough, Negrin from the corner flag, he puts up, I think it's 2 arms. Nice ball comes in. Trusty peels away from the header in the middle of the box to come to the front post. And it's a little glancing header over the back into the far post and into the back of the net. Some people will probably credit that to Ross Grant and being an expert set piece coach. I'm just going to put that down to a really good cross on the ball and Trusty doing what Trusty does. I think most of our defenders, usually Liam Scales, tries to get to that front post at times. But I thought that was a nice goal in itself, right? Easy on the eye sort of thing. There's nothing dogged about it. It was just a nice, easy goal. Duran himself, he gets the second goal. This one I thought was quite nice as well. Probably my second favourite of the 4. I think all 4 were actually quite good goals. Duran plays a wee 1-2, works his way into the box. I think it's first off with Nygren, then he gets a 1-2 off Oxley Chamberlain. Oxley tries to cross it into Casper Ho, who's coming down. There's a handball call there, but I think Willie Collins cleared that up in his post-match stuff. And Duran keeps following his ball in and gets the reward for keep going, and he gets his goal there. I think we saw quite a bit from Duran at that point, coming from the right side, cutting in. You've seen a bit more of his game awareness, a bit more of his drive there, and hopefully a bit more goals will come from him as well. Tanecki gets to the third goal. I think this was really good by Tanecki. Is it Nygren again? Three of our players are breaking. Nygren passes it forward to Tanecki, who drives forward. He keeps things simple at this point. Maybe he's got a wee bit more space that helps him kind of concentrate a wee bit more on the goal. But he drives forward, cuts in, and he pulls his shot back into the near post. At first, I thought he scuffed it, but the more you watch it, I think he actually did mean to put it where he put it. And Nygren's goal, as we discussed there as well, obviously that wee back heel pass from Bauer, and the way that Nygren, I think he's outside of the box, is he, if I'm right, or he's on the edge, and he kind of just scoops it into the far post. Really nice goal, probably my pick of the bunch, with Duran probably being second. Those goals, I think I think maybe Celtic could have had a 5th or a 6th at some points. But over the piece, I think 4-0, as we said at the start, probably flatters us a lot more than Dundee United deserved. With the goals themselves, though, I asked you what one was your favourite. Did anyone surprise you in a way? Like I'm probably leaning you more towards Tenetke there.
I think Tenetke, he took his goal well, and he made a few really good breaks. He made a few really good breaks from our half. I thought, I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's good enough to start for Celtic. I think I don't mind him being in my squad, and I don't mind him getting on here and getting on there, but I don't think he's good enough to start. I thought that Oxley, Chamberlain, and Cal McGregor played really well together until Chamberlain's legs went. Running about the 60th minute, 50th minute, his legs went, and that was when we brought on the subs. I thought that Tenetke played well enough to be getting. I don't know if he should start tomorrow night, but he played all right and he took his goal well.
He did. I'd be surprised if he starts tomorrow night. I think Yang starts. I think Duran starts. I think Hassan is likely to get on before Tenetke just because of the calibre of player that we expect him to be. But I do expect Tenetke at some point will be on the pitch tomorrow night. Take it back to Nygren as well. Obviously, he gets his couple of assists and his goal on Sunday. As you said earlier as well, he's probably went up a level even this short sample size of this season. That's 3 competitive games, 3 goals and 3 assists. He's 2 and 1, whereas last season, what was he? More like 1 and 2. So he's short spell of games. He looks like he's doubling his tally as it looks. I'm actually quite glad that he's not being rumoured or linked. I think we all kind of assumed that it would be, and I think a lot of people at the start of this summer would have been all right with Nygren going if we signed him for $1.5 million. If you got 10, 15 million from him, even a wee bit more, I think a lot of people would probably been okay with that. But as you said earlier, playing Nygren with a better calibre of players around him, you can instantly see that him and Casper Ho have built up a wee bit of a friendship and a bond there. But even having Duran out on the right, sometimes he knows he's like his goal there. He knows he's going to run in and drive from the right into the middle. So there's 1-2s to get played. There's given goals between them, and I think that's going to bring out the better of Nygren. His little slip-in passes are going to be picked up by much better quality players. And I mean no offence to anybody from last season, but at the same time, I do mean offence because we were pretty fucking shit. But that's only going to help Nygren. And if he's happy enough, I'm happy enough that he's going to keep bringing those numbers. But I think I've said it so many times, James, I think he's the perfect second striker, number 10. He's not a central midfielder. He, as you said, he doesn't have that engine. He doesn't have that drive and strength. He doesn't, come back to do the defensive work too much. But in that number 10, like a proper, that way, Tom Rogic, you never expected Tom Rogic to do any defending whatsoever. He was just magic going forward. Nygren's maybe not got the fancy technical footwork, but he's got the fucking brain. I think he's got a great brain on football mind. I think he's doing really well. If you want to take it over with Nygren, then I know you're quite excited about the start of this season with him as well.
So I think he's really stepped up this season, like you said. He seems to have formed a really good partnership with Hu and Duran. In the first game Duran played, where he played out wide, he wasn't as definite. But the last 2 games, you've seen him coming into the back post quite a lot. And so as if the ball's out in the left, you see Hu going to the front post, Duran going to the back post. It reminds me very much of Abada and Kyogo, and when Ange was there, how the wingers everybody would come in one, and Hu really likes to hit the front post.
There's that kind of unison in the movement.
And so that's what quite excites me. And then Grin just picks up pockets of space. And I think that, so last season, I'm not saying teams didn't fear us, but we didn't have that unbelievable striker, and our wingers were hit and miss. This year, we've got wingers coming in and we've got a cracking striker. So defences there's more room for Ngrin to pick up space, and he picks up space. He picks up space amazingly, as we've discussed. He's not a centre mid, but and I don't know if he'll play every week in the Champions, or he'll start. I don't know if he'll start every week in the Champions League, but because in the Champions League we might need to have 3 midfielders that are going to cover ground. But I think that, you know, he's I think he'll score a barrel load again this year. And listen, people say all he does is score goals. Well, all he does is score goals and set goals up. And what was it? Was it Johan Cruyff that said, "I don't care if as long as we score one more goal, that's really all that matters." So I'm happy with him.
I bet he's one of these players, you know, that way sometimes you trying to see if I can link this without sounding like an idiot. Sometimes fans look at a player and wonder what the fuck is he doing in the training ground because he keeps getting a game. I'm not saying this about Nygren specifically, but you also get the flip where some managers say that a player is absolutely dog shit in training, doesn't show up, but you can't drop him because when he's actually playing in the 90 minutes, he's the best fucking player in the park. Nygren's possibly somewhere in that mode of it doesn't matter the rest of the shit that he doesn't do, because if he's going to keep bringing these numbers, you can't drop him. Even if you, I've said it so many times about that midfield trio, if we're going to keep Nygren in the trio, it's so imbalanced. And when we play Cal McGregor so far back defensively, you leave somebody like Engels or Hatate in the middle all by themselves because Nygren is so far forward or out to the right, and he's not really helping. He's not a team player for the back end. He's a team player for the front end. Yeah. And Cal McGregor being so far back, you end up just losing. You've got a one-man midfield against 3 or 4 of whoever else you're playing against. And it's really, really frustrating to watch our midfield, which I think still has that issues. But as you touched on with our front lines, we're probably getting around the midfield quicker and letting the front line do the talk. But with Nygren, I think he's that kind of player that you figure out the duo in midfield, you figure out who the pivot's going to be with, and you just play Nygren and the number 10 shadow striker, second striker, whatever you want to call it, and you just let him do his thing because, again, 3 assists, 3 goals in 3 games. You can't argue with that. And you know, even if he goes the next 2 or 3 games and doesn't do anything, his numbers still look fucking good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. They do for a number 10. It'll be. I don't think he'll be top goal scorer this season because I think that'll be who. But I think he will. He will be up there and thereabouts. I think he is. I think so. McGregor keeps coming back to take the ball because that's how we played under Ange and under Brendan, where the midfield would come back, take the ball off the field. But at the moment, we don't just we seem to do that sometimes, and we'll go long sometimes as well, which is the football purist in me doesn't want to see that, but it is effective. You watch Sinisalo do it sometimes where he'll take the ball and then he'll lash it up the park for who are to pass it off. I think that I'm quite excited about this season in a way I wasn't excited last year, if that makes sense.
I feel positive.
Yeah.
There was really no point in last season that I ever felt positive. There was points where I did feel we're going to win the league at the start, as you always do. And there was a point in the last few games you felt confident, but at no point really throughout the bulk of that season did anybody feel positive about watching the game. Nobody felt like, I don't think anybody felt confident that we went into a game that we were going to win. And we were going to be entertained. I think almost every single game felt like a slog and torture. Whereas just now I'm actually feeling excited. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night's game again. I'm looking forward to the weekend's game. I'm looking forward to that double header next month. Don't know what the result's going to be, but I'm actually looking forward to it for once, because the last year you just couldn't get G'd up for it.
I think we'll win both of them, but I think that the last season we were talking. Last season we were counting days off, games off. You know, you're walking out of Celtic Park last season, and it's like it's another game done, and you just wanted to get to the end. But this year, I'm excited. I'm excited. It'll be good to get back into Celtic Park on a European night. They're always the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And tomorrow night is the first one to come back up for us, obviously, and to kind of tie it in with the excitement and the positivity going forward. A little bit on that midfield and a little bit on the wide areas. Our two new boys got their debuts. Mm-hmm. Well, they got the debuts off the bench. Mika Bauer and Hasim Hassan. We'll take them individually. We'll take Bauer first because he came on first. I think he probably had a bigger contribution, especially with that wee back heel flip for the, what do you call it, a secondary assist?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that being a bit too XG?
It's been a bit XG, but it's okay. I'll let you have that.
Thanks. Bauer, for me, I was instantly impressed with him. Not going to get overly carried away. There was a couple of moments of slack passes that put us under a little bit of pressure. I think one of them did lead to one of the many woodwork hits from Dundee United. But there was a few times, as we say, with that back heel pass, that his passing was actually really quite nice. Reminded everybody, I think, of Hatate when he first came in, and the way that he plays, the energy that he's got. But the thing that I liked more about Bauer that you've not seen from Hatate, at least for a long time anyway, was see when he did make a small mistake or he did let the ball go, he didn't throw the arms down and kind of get off. He just got on with it. He went to try and look to win the ball back, or he looked to try and get into a defensive position to help the team out. He looked dynamic about it. He looked energized. I was going to call him dynamite. He just looked like he was ready to go back or forward. He looks like he'd be a really good utility player in there. I believe he can play at fullback. Was it one of these positions he's filled in at points?
Apparently, yes.
Yeah. Not that I want to see your midfielders in fullback positions too often, but if they're at least got that kind of knowledge in the head that they understand the defensive aspect of the game, then that's going to be brilliant. But some of his passing, as I said, blind passes forward at times, back heel pass. There's a couple 1-2 moments that he had as well. I just generally was really fucking impressed with him. And I think he's that age. Was he 21? We've just signed him. You look at Engels when we signed him as well, 20. He's that age. The money you've spent on him isn't as much as Engels was originally, but I think you can see the caliber and quality that you get when you just you skip the 19 and 20-year-olds and you go get the 21, 22-year-olds, and you spend a little bit of money and you get the caliber in, and he looks like he's instantly going to make an impact, I think, for us. How did you see Bauer? Are you as excited as I am, or am I getting carried away?
No, I'm much the same. To me, what the management team's trying to do is build. Because obviously we're looking at a couple of other midfielders, and I think if you get Sigurd, I think that means that Kalmak's going to be playing one forward because he's a natural six.
Yeah.
Which means Kalmak will be playing that bit forward, which this is a hill I'll die on. Callum McGregor's the best midfielder in Scottish football, head and shoulders. And I think that he's kind of wasted playing that far back.
Yep.
And being the captain, he wants to do everything. He wants to go back, pick it up, drive with it. I think he's a phenomenal football player. He's got what a football brain he's got. I think that what the Magic's trying to do is try to build this team where there's choices in midfield. That if a defensive midfielder in Cal McGregor and then Grin's not working, you can put on this box-to-box midfielder that's going to give a different dynamic to the team, and that's, to me, what we're trying to do. And I'm sorry, but anybody that comes in and moves Luke McCowan further down the pecking order is all right by me. I don't hate Luke McCowan. He is what he is. He's a Dundee player. And he'll look okay when he comes off the bench with like 20 minutes to go. I've said this before on here. He'll come off the bench with 20 minutes to go when everybody else has been running for 70 minutes chasing shadows, and then he'll come on and he'll look like a decent player. But he's no good enough. He's just no good enough.
You could be talking about Taneki there as well, to be honest.
I could, and so I'm not. I don't want to talk about Hun. I don't want to talk about Rangers, right? But they want everything done now. Like, they need to get 20 players in and try. We can't do everything over one window. So see if we keep Taneki and then phase them out, bringing in somebody better. I'm okay with that. It's the only reason that worries me is because I don't trust our board to behave in that kind of forward-thinking manner, where we think, right, okay, so we've brought in this and we'll fix this core. If you bring in a decent enough left back and we keep Alistair Johnson, the back four is fine. We've covered him. The back four's fine. This is a terrifying statement, but I would have probably kept Welsh rather than Dane Murray. But I think we've got to keep Dane Murray because he counts as one of our national train
for the quota for Europe. I did a wee count. I'll not deviate too far. If you include Jota and all the players that are taking part in the early part of the season, plus the names that we know we need to sign, or the positions we know we need to sign, so we know we need a left back, a goalkeeper, and you're looking at potentially another centre mid and potentially another left winger, actually. All those names build up to 26 without going into the depths of the youth or the proper French players. You could probably drop Jota's name out for the Champions League registration. I know some people are hopeful that he's back, for game 3 or game 4, but I think that's just being a wee bit too hopeful for me. If he's anything, you might see him in the January games, but I think to expect him any sooner than game 5 or 6 is probably quite extreme, quite hopeful. So take Jota out, you've got 25 players, and we do have the 8 for that quota. You arguably, and that's including the potential signing a left back, a goalkeeper, another centre mid, and another left winger. So that's including 4 new players who would be foreign. You've got 25 plus your 8 names. I reckon mathematically, I can't be asked counting it in my head just now, but I reckon you could probably lose somebody from the quota. And probably bring up somebody from the youth who would count towards it if you needed to, but I'm sure there's a wee jig you could do to try and bring somebody else in if you had to or wanted to bring in another centre back in that position. Sorry, James, just as you said that about the quota. Probably stole your thunder.
No, not at all. So I think that our back four's relatively sorted. I think we need a number 2. Because we're an injury away for Duhan starting for us, right? Which is right. So because I'm quite comfortable and I know there's been some debate on here about this, I'm quite comfortable giving Sinisalo his chance. I'm quite comfortable with that. And if we've got a finite amount of money, I'd rather we spent money bringing in another midfielder that's going to change a game and maybe turn a game. So I think defensively we're fine. I think forward, if you take Jota back into it, I think forward line, we're okay, right? I think we're okay. Yang, Jota, Forrest, Hassan, Taneki, Duran, who I think we're all right. I think it's midfield where we're a wee bit disjointed. And Osmond, apologies. In fact, I would be maybe tempted to put Osmond out on loan for a because the boy needs game time. He needs constant game time. So I would look at it and see if he's not going to get a lot of game time. I'd be putting him out on loan to look at how much Ryan Christie came on when he went out to Aberdeen. Scales as well. Ayer when he went to Kelly. I mean, get him down to the English Championship. Get him out playing games every single week. He's not going to learn. Yeah, okay, he's training with better players, but you can't beat playing week in, week out.
Yeah.
At his age, he needs to get game time.
100%. I'm going to get absolutely pelted by people in the comments for this one. There's a sports scene or whatever it is that BBC do on their weekends. And I guess it must have been during the World Cup that they played it. And I listened to it back when I was out on a walk one day. And there's that Andy Halliday and Craig Levine talking about bringing youth through and the development and what's needed. Something must have happened. It was after the Scotland stuff, so it was obviously talking about trying to bring new Scottish talent through, but something else must have been happening in the world of football to jig this conversation as well. But Halliday made a great point that I can't disagree with, and I actually quite like it. I know I fucking feel bad, but I can't remember who he said it was. Whoever was his coach back when he got his first game, his debut, and his coach tell him basically, "Well done, but that's no you. You've not made it yet. Stop thinking that your debuts, you made it. Get to 50 games, and then you've made it. 50 games is where you can say, I'm in the team. I've established myself." And so many of our players, youth-wise, they'd never even see 50. I said that, I think, last week or the week before on here as well, talk about Stephen Welsh and how little games he had. Dane Murray's in the same situation. I'd be quite fearful for Osmond because Osmond does look at talent. You can see the real potential in him, and see if he's going to go 3 years before he hits 50 games. That's a disaster for him.
100%.
And it's a disaster for us as a developing club. So I do agree. If we get to the last couple of days, the last week of the window, and we say we've got the forward line that we want, we've got the depth that we are happy with, yes, Osmond, you will play a part, but actually you'll get 30, 40 games by going to Aberdeen or by going down to Middlesbrough or whoever wants to have a look at him. No loan to buys, no anything like that. He's out to develop and bring him back. He'll benefit so much more from that than getting the part 10 minutes every third or fourth game sort of thing. Because as it stands, you have to assume Casper Hole's going to be your number one striker. You have to assume that Hassan is going to be your right winger. And you're probably going to assume that Duran's going to go left side. And that would be your front three for the foreseeable. Jota comes back, he takes the left side naturally. But you've still got Yang, who's able to go both ways. You've got Forrest, who can go both ways. If you've then got Duran able to go both ways, plus Hassan and Jota being your starters, that's a lot of people for Osmond to get out on the wings, which I know he's talented on the left wing as well. He is a backup striker, but then so is Duran. And there's a lot of players who can move around, and there is potential for game time for Osmond. But yeah, I'm with you. If he's going to be limited, I'd rather see him out on loan to proper progress, because he's already a better player than Johnny Kenny. And with proper game time, I think he would be actually quite a good player for Celtic.
Agreed. Totally. So I think that we need to give him game. He needs game time. It's the only way he's going to develop. These boys need to learn their trade, and you don't get that playing 5 minutes here, because what invariably happens is you're coming on for the last 5-10 minutes of a game that's won. So your midfielders are only breaking bones to try and get you through. You're obviously usually playing with the second string wingers, so you're not getting chances. You're not developing the way you should. He needs to be getting minutes, and if that's a year away, again, I totally agree. No option to buy, no anything. He's going and loan to get minutes into his legs, and yeah, I'd be keen on that.
Aye. I would even potentially look further afield. I know we've got, was it Admiral Wacker over in Austria? Was it second division there? You've obviously got the links do we officially have a link with Air? I know Thomas Hatton's away there just now. Is that one of these collaboration clubs?
It was last year when Brown was there. I don't know if I don't know if it was official. I don't know if it is still one. But I know that when Brown was there, we'd quite a few players out there.
I think the level, that kind of level of club, I think is below the vast majority of our players, to be honest, even our young youth. But it's way below what we need. Osmond needs to go to a Motherwell. They've just lost he needs to go to Motherwell. He needs to go to Hibs. He needs to go to the English Championship. If he can't get one of those, try look to get him into the top 3 or 4 teams in Austria. You know, mid-table Germany side. See if somebody wants to take him, mid-table French side. Hell, Lens might want another player off us. They seem to be keen on our diddies and our duds. Maybe they want to loan out one of our talents.
He helped them win the cup. The cup on Sunday.
Navrocky, he did. Aye. Played the whole game, if I'm right in saying, did he?
Aye. Apparently,
he started it anyway.
Apparently, he was outstanding. I've seen a couple of clips on Instagram of some of his tackles. I don't know why. Well, we've already covered this.
I know. But talking about players who are long gone, but let's not dwell on it. Let's talk about players who are still here technically and or just left us. 2 players' names. As I said earlier, Nigren, I think a lot of people at the start of the window thought maybe would go. I think we're all quite content that rumours aren't linking Nigren away. As it stands, let's hope that stays. But 2 players who, one is away and one looks like he's most likely away, is Hatate and Engels. Now, Hatate, most recently, he's rejected an offer from Panathinaikos, I believe it was. Were we looking at 8 million was the offer, I believe? Euros or pounds, take your pick. But seemingly he's waiting for a top 5 league. With the limited football that Hatate's got in his legs over the last year and how unfortunately poor he's been in the last 2 years, I think he'd be struggling for a top-end, top 5 league. He's obviously never getting your Champions League, later stage kind of clubs. But he's got his eyes on Germany, Italy, Spain, France, England, Portugal. Depends on that. Is Portugal top 5 now still?
No.
I don't know if they took it off France at one point. France surely is taking that back.
It's England, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France. That's the top 5.
I know it used to be France, but there was a point a few years ago Portugal took that off France for sure. Don't know if it ever switched back. Anyway, one of those 5 or 6. Hatate for me is not getting in the top end of those leagues. He's not getting into your Newcastles. He's not getting into your Aston Villas. He's not getting into your Atletico Madrids. He's probably not getting into your Real Betises. France is probably easier. He's definitely not getting in PSG, but if you also look at Navrocky, gets into Lens, who came second last year. There's lots of teams there. He's probably not getting into a Marseille or a Monaco kind of level team caliber-wise, but he could probably get somewhere. Germany, again, your Dortmunds, your Bayerns, he's not getting there, but he could get a Stuttgart. He could get a Wolfsburg maybe. Was it Wolfsburg looking at Maeda last year, wasn't it?
It was Wolfsburg that Maeda had almost agreed to go to.
Italy-wise, again, your mid-tables, maybe your Atalanta kind of level, Torino, maybe as a swap deal for somebody else. But that rejecting of the move to Panathinaikos, that would have been a good move, I think, for him. I mean, fair play to him if he's got his heart set on a certain league, fair play, but I think he's definitely one who is going to be making way. I take it from what you've said so far tonight as well, that you're not going to miss him.
No, I think we look at I think we look at Hatate with real rose-coloured glasses, and he has had some absolutely amazing games where he was just different gravy. One of my best pals is a Leeds United supporter. I mean, a genuine Leeds United supporter, and he loves Hatate. He would love Leeds to buy Hatate, right? Loves them. But when was the last time he had a great game? I suppose he played all right in the 2-each game at Ibrox when he came off the bench. He came off the bench and he changed the game. But he was great under Ange, absolutely an unbelievable player under Ange. He was good under Brendan Rodgers for Brendan's first season back, but I'll not miss him. And he needs to be careful. Although, Italy's the top league and Lewis Ferguson's a star in Italy.
He is, and is real Hatate a better player than him?
I think he's got more technique. I just think he's more huffy. I think he's got more technique than Lewis Ferguson. I mean, when we played them last year, I definitely think Hatate's got more technique than him. But I think that he's not as hard a worker. And I think that will go against Hatate. Also, he's coming up he'll be 29 on his next birthday.
Whatever that is.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know when he's not on my birthday card list, but he's 29. This is his last big contract. He needs to be careful. Because the last thing he wants is to spend a year not even getting into your squad, and then
that's maybe what he's thinking with the top 5 league. I mean, it's easy for us to laugh at the top 5 league. You're never getting there, real, because you've done fuck all. But he's not seen top 5 winning teams in those leagues. I think he's maybe, as you say, thinking about his next move, because he's maybe, if you do 1 year at, let's say you do 1 year at Villarreal, for talking's sake, and you hit the ground running, you look good, Atletico Madrid might sign you, and you can win a trophy at Atletico Madrid. Barcelona and Madrid are not going to sign him, don't worry. Likewise, in Italy, you could sign for a mid-table Italian team and then get snapped up randomly by a Napoli.
Was it Ewan Henderson that happened to?
At Bologna, then he went up to, who did he go up to? He was at Bologna for a while before he got moved up.
I can't remember. I'll check that after this.
But maybe he's got that, as you said, he needs to think about his next move, because going to Panathinaikos, you're not going to get spotted by anybody for a couple of years. You end up being 30 before you can get to the top 5 league, if you ever do.
Yeah,
you might end up championship after that, if not back in Japan. So maybe he is looking at, if I just get to the EPL of the Bundesliga, I'm then on the doorstep of the bigger teams.
I don't think Hatate is consistent enough to do that. I don't think. I think that see when he plays, when he's good, he's brilliant, and he plays passes that other midfielders don't see. Right? He plays these sublime passes, and he splits the defence. He's wide open, and when he first came, he had a ninja, and he covered every blade of grass, and it was unbelievable. But it's as much about football. Being a professional football player is as much about mentality. As I think Ange was very big in that. Remember Ange saying when he came at first, he basically, and he almost interviewed players before they came. And was it Paddy Roberts? He says he spoke to Paddy Roberts and he went for Leo Labada because Paddy Roberts just it's just about your mentality. And I just think that I don't think that Hatate, he's got all the talent in the world. I just think it's his mentality that lets him down, and that's why he will never be a top player. You look at the difference between his mentality and Maeda's mentality. Hitate's technically a far superior football player to Maeda.
100%. 100%.
Right, but you look at the difference in the two mentalities, and that's why Maeda is playing in the Premiership and Hitate. But you're right, he goes to Panathinaikos and he doesn't hit the ground running, and then before you know it, he's 30, 31, and he's playing in Greece. Personally, I would rather play for a team in one of the less leagues and be trying to win things than playing in a team in a top league. And if that was my standard, I would rather play for a Panathinaikos or a Celtic or a team that's actually going to be challenging, and you're going to be winning things, because you're making enough money at these teams that you're going to be comfortable for the rest of your life. Or you're not going to be life-changing rich, but you're making enough money, and you can look at all these medals that you've won and look at all these games that you played in, rather than I sat on the bench for a year with Leeds United winning nothing.
Aye. I know, I agree with that as well, actually, because as much as I can try and put myself in the mentality of Hitate and think, right, if I just get into the top 5 leagues, I'm then on the doorstep of some of the bigger teams who could challenge for a cup in these leagues, in these countries. You're giving up a lot of opportunities to actually win silverware. Whereas if you go to a Panathinaikos, if you went to a Red Bull Salzburg in Austria, if you went to one of these kind of clubs where it's the equivalent of Celtic in these other leagues, I think you'd actually probably do quite well in Portugal, actually, if you pick one of the top 3 teams there. Whether or not you get into those sides is another matter again.
I think he's really suited to Germany. I think he would.
Yeah, I think it would be.
I think he'd be really good in Germany, the German league. Obviously, no Bayern. He's not going to game for Bayern or Dortmund, but I think if he was playing for one of the Paderborn, something like that.
Is that enough for him? As you say, I mean, you're going to go through the next 3 or 4 seasons no winning anything, just so that you're in the limelight, or do you want to go? I mean, do you want to go out and make a career where you can actually retire when you're older, go back to Japan and tell your kids, "I've won medals in Scotland, I've won medals in Japan, I've won medals in Austria and Greece, and wherever," or do you want to just say, "I played in the Bundesliga for 3 years"?
I
know what one I would actually go with if you get to the age of 28, 29 and you accept that you're not going to make it. Because see if he's 22, 23, batter in. You've got 2, 3 moves in, you can figure that out. But see, at his age, yeah, you're probably more right. He has to accept his level. He's no going to... Like that Real Madrid game, that first half that he played against Real Madrid, he was absolutely superb. I generally got to the end of that game, I thought, if he keeps that level of performance up throughout the Champions League, teams like Real Madrid would sniff around him a little bit, even as a squad player, just to have him in and around the side and see what he could do. Because 10 million, 15 million on Rio Tati back then by a Real Madrid, I know it sounds mad that people are going to suggest this, Real Madrid would happily spend that to see if he could make the step up, and if he doesn't, they would loan him out and sell him to Villarreal for 10 million anyway, so it would be no loss to them. But 3, 4 years later, nah, no happening, Rio. That ain't happening, pal.
No, it isn't. He's no... And I think that's what's pissed him off. We are his level, right? We are his level.
Aye. Which is not a bad level.
No, it's... we are his, or a Panathinaikos, or a... He wouldn't get a game for Benfica, but there's teams that he could play for in a decent enough league. Because I watch the English Premiership, right? You see what I post in the group chat. I watch a lot of football, and there's games in the English Premiership that are no better than the Scottish Premiership.
Oh yeah.
There's games, I've watched games in the EPL that would get football stopped. And so I don't think we do down the level of our game a lot. Yeah, there is games that are pretty dire, right? But we play down the level of our game a lot, whereas the EPL play up the level of their game a lot. I think that we are his level. Was it Jose Mourinho said, somebody asked him a question about would he manage at Celtic, and he says, yeah, if I thought that was the best team that I could manage and win things, then I would manage at Celtic. And I think we've all got to understand our levels and where we are, and I think that's what Hatate doesn't. I think he thinks he's better than he is.
Yeah. Another player who might think that he's better, Arne Engels. Martin Engels' comments, was it today or yesterday? I think it came out, that Arne Engels basically said he didn't want to play in the qualifiers in case he got injured, and it basically could have scuppered his move to West Ham. That in itself is probably something that most fans hate to hear, that players would want to rule themselves out whilst they're contracted with a club. You should be making yourself available. But I think a lot of people accepted that Engels was going to be moving on this summer anyway. So when you think about, there's 22 million rising to 25 or more, I think there's heavy bonuses if he does get promoted this season. I think a lot of people probably think, well, yeah, okay, why would you risk the injury and no get that? Because he basically had to be sold this summer to get the maximum money out of him. Comments like that, and the player himself, James, will you miss Arne Engels?
So I think, again, you can check back in the archive here. I think Arne Engels is a Rolls Royce of a football player. I think that part of the reason why Dundee United had so many shots on our goal and was because Arne Engels wasn't there. I think what Arne Engels does is I think he's a rank. I think he's taken a step sideways in order to make the step up. But he's going to need to step up as well, because if West Ham get promoted the way they think they are, if he doesn't perform this year, they're just going to go out and spend £40 million on a midfielder. They're going to just go out and spend £40 million on a midfielder, and then he'll be left in the bench at West Ham, and he'll end up bouncing about. He'll end up bouncing about Championship teams, lower EPL sides. He'll make a fair bit of money, but he'll do nothing in the game. And I think that'll be a shame, because I think he's quality. Having said that, he's 23 now. Is he going to get? He's leaving, and he's nowhere near the player that Matt O'Reilly was when he left.
No, this is something that I've kind of always annoyed me about, how we develop players as well. I don't think that Celtic have enough backroom staff, enough coaches, enough specialised coaches to actually educate players for the club to make players better. I think some players have that natural willpower and drive and motivation inside them that they will make themselves better. If you look at Tierney, you look at Matt O'Reilly, you can even look at the big name stars, your Messi's, and especially Ronaldo. He's always said to himself that he knew he wasn't the most brilliant of players, but he focused everything on his fitness and his athleticism to make him the best version of himself he possibly could, which ends up being one of the best players of our generation, if not more. Extreme views of it, but there's some players in the world that have that self-drive and motivation. I don't think Celtic as a club have the staff to create better players. So if players like Arne Engels, and this is not meant as a slight on Arne Engels, but it's just trying to make a point. He comes in 2 years ago. I think he's the exact same player. I don't think he's got better. And I don't know if that's a poor motivation from him, or if it's just Celtic haven't helped develop him. But when you compare him to Matt O'Reilly did get better whilst he was here. But I think that's because he himself had that willpower and that drive. What Engels needs to be careful of, but also positive, because this is what I was meaning by Hatate, if he was a few years younger. Engels is going to West Ham. He's on the doorstep. We can talk about it being Championship and not EPL, but the EPL is looking at the Championship every weekend. especially teams like West Ham. If he does well there 1 year in the Championship with West Ham and gets them promoted and he's one of the star players, then a Newcastle United will sign Arne Engels without thinking about it. They won't care about being a lesser league. It's a conveyor belt for the Championship up to the EPL. Will an Arsenal sign him? Probably not from the Championship straight in, but they did sign Declan Rice. So, yeah, they might do. So 1 year with West Ham in the Championship is probably no different or no better or no worse than a year with Everton in the EPL. It makes no difference probably to Arne Engels in that sense, but he has to have that drive and motivation to continue to make himself better and take advantage of the fact that West Ham will have the facilities and the backroom staff and the kind of football coaching education that will make him a better player, hopefully for his sake. It doesn't matter overly to us, and in the famous words of our Paddy in the group chat, he's out the door, fuck him, don't care about him anymore. But he did bring us in 22 million. Unfold is exactly it. So that's players who look like they're probably going to be out, Hatate, and players who have left in Engels. Before I move on to incomings, is there any other players you think might be on the way out the door at Celtic before the window closes? A couple of weeks still to go.
So I think that Alistair Johnson would have been out, but his injury, I think that might have saved us. I think that if we could get somebody to take Taneke, I think Taneke would, but I don't think we'll go actively try to get rid of him. But if something came in, then I think we would let him go. I think that I don't think there's anybody else that's. I'm going through the squad in my head. No, I don't think there's around about May last year. I thought Carter Vickers was a cert to be gone, but looks as if there's nothing coming for him.
I wonder if Carter Vickers is at a point where, because of injuries as well, and because he's came from Spurs and he's had quite a few loan spells in his earlier career as well, I wonder if he's got to the point of, a bit like Scott Sinclair. I had Smell the Gloves comment up earlier about Joe Hart winning his medals at the start and end of his career sort of thing. Scott Sinclair made an interview, I think after one season here, about how he fell in love with the game again, being at Celtic, and that he'd fallen out of love with the game. And one of his deciding factors to come to Celtic was to find that passion for the game. And he admitted he made his money. He wasn't coming to Celtic to earn, a payday and all the rest of it. He was coming to win medals. He's coming to enjoy football again. Joe Hart maybe didn't initially come here in the same exact mindset as Scott Sinclair, but he quickly figured that out anyway, regardless that Celtic is a place to come to fall in love with the game again if you've got the right character about yourself for it. And when it comes to I forgot who we were talking about. Drifting off there, as you do.
Carter Vickers.
I wonder if he's got to the point where he's realised he's not going to go back down to England to win the Premiership. That opportunity's gone for him. He's not that level of player. He's not going to be starring for Liverpool or City or Arsenal. Has he maybe accepted that? And maybe he's happy because I'd be happy with Carter Vickers to see another few years out of him anyway. Get him into his 30s. He can't be far off it, surely, by this stage. Excuse me. So I agree at some point you probably would be fearful, but I think now I'm probably more content that I think Carter Vickers is staying for the foreseeable. AJ, I think you're right. I think that injury's probably scuppered at any move. As much as you don't want him to have a recurring injury. Sorry, 2 seconds. It's maybe something that helps him mentally to say, okay, I'm staying at Celtic for another year. I'm not going to down the tools. I'm not going to be in a huff because it's just one of these points in football and life. Accept that he's here for another year quite happily. Never has he down tools or looked bad at Celtic anyway, but just that way, like it's not us refusing him to leave, and there's no chance of a bad kind of why didn't you let me go sort of thing. I think he just now goes in a good way.
But I think that's the reason why Engels
Probably don't want to
refused.
risk the Champions League.
Aye. After what happened to Alistair Johnson and possibly Chermiti, because Chermiti's out for the season, so it's like if I get injured, then this could scupper this deal. And then who's going to come back in for me next year if I've not played for a year?
Aye, you'd have to then spend another year proving yourself again. So you're 2 years down the line. So yeah, I can get it to a degree. I don't envision any big sales after Hatate and obviously Engels going. You could see a couple of players maybe make way, but I don't think it's anything massive. If anybody big does leave, definitely needs to be fully replaced. As far as income is concerned, though, James, we've always spoke about leading up to the summer that this is a massive rebuild. You're talking 12, 13, 14 players on a turnover. We've got 4, and there's 2 weeks left of this window. It's unlikely we're going to sign another 8, let's be honest. But we clearly are looking at, I think, at least 3 new players, maybe 4, as a minimum of what's going to come in. And I think you might see 1 or 2 more. So you could end the window with 7 or 8 new signings. That Landon Emmanuel, the Chelsea youth player, the left back, he was in Glasgow. He's at Lennox Town with Mika Bowen, Sam Haseen last week. He was pictured. I believe he is basically just seeing out his rehab for his injury, whatever that injury may be, and then he'll be up here to be our backup left back. Is he good enough? No idea. Is he going to be another Alex Valle, a Bernabe? Don't know. Could be, maybe. But it's going to look like he's going to be our left back to Kieran Tierney. We're still looking at that Givaris Genetics.
Yes.
The Torino centre mid. The price point is looking like double digits again. I'm wondering if that's one that we're probably holding it off to see how we do fare against Lask. But we're also looking at Nico Seeger, and I saw the name Dan Gore getting brought up. I think he's at Man United, is he? So I think there's definitely another midfielder coming in, regardless of what happens. I think it might just be a pecking order, depending on what happens in the qualifier here. We might get 2. I think a lot of people will say you need another 2 midfielders. I definitely think one was coming in, but you might get 2. The other one is a goalkeeper, and we've been looking, I think, very closely at this Bally's Toth, the Blackburn Rovers goalkeeper. There's a couple other names being linked as well, but I think that Toth one looks like he's the most furthest down the line. So I think, in my belief, left back, centre mid, and goalkeeper are definitely coming in the next week or so. Possibly a second centre mid. I think after that, your next thing you look at is a left winger. But I think that's maybe just pushing it too far. We definitely should be doing it, but I think just where we're at the stage in the window, it's one of those kind of take what you can get at this point. And I think 3 going on 4 is probably where we're going to be. James, do you see that as a likely thing? Do you see anything different?
So I see that as very likely. That's how I see it going as well. Definitely. So I've heard the Blackburn keeper will be here before the weekend. I've heard the left back is coming up. I've heard 3 different names mentioned as a centre mid, but I was also told, I'm not in the know, as you know. We all have people that talk. That's so people talk, and I was told that Casper Ho wouldn't be our record signing for long.
Would that be your Torino boy? Do you think that was the one that might break that?
I think that's what they were talking about. And he's obviously more of a fit for Engels. He's more of that box to box midfielder. Segur, who's apparently, but he's quite keen on coming, but he's a 6. He's a 6, but he can also play right back. But he's a 6. He's a defensive mid, which would allow Calmac to move one forward. But I'm not sure if Calmac's got the engine to play in the 8 now. I don't know if he's got the engine to go.
I think he does. I think he does, and I think if you look at small samples again, but if you look at the overhead kick from Dyson Maeda last season against Rangers, that came because Dyson first was pressing in the box to try and win the ball back. Callum McGregor at the edge of the box was doing some pressing and some dogged work to get the ball out to Netke before it comes back in for the overhead kick. I think Callum McGregor still has it in him to play that a little bit further up. I'm not going to say the number 10, but I think he's got a bit more in him still to give a little bit further up. And that's why Segura, again, P. McLaughlin as well, he can cover it right back, is probably the utility player that you probably want in your side. He gives you that defensive midfield mindset that we don't have in the squad. He allows Calmac to go a bit further up. He also allows you to play that, as you were saying earlier, maybe sometimes you don't want to play Nigren in the Champions League games, in the group stage anyway. Seagull gives you that option of playing the defensive midfielder, Bauer and Calmac. And that's your midfield trio as a bit more of a defensive unit rather than the attacking mindset.
It's a bit more solid, as we've discussed countless times. And Grin, I like him, Grin, and I didn't want him to go. And as we discussed as well, it's good. There's nobody to really talk about people coming in for him. But I think if he has another season, this season.
Oh, if he continues as he is, even if he goes 3 games without doing anything and bags another brace or a couple of assists again, if he continues vaguely like this, you'd be lucky if you don't lose him in January.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly. I think he's and if you get a 15 million, 20 million pound not bid for him on somebody you spent 1.5, 2 million on, then
that's what we are. We're a player trading model. That's what we need. Engels makes up for not doing it for the last couple of years. We can easily go another 2 years without needing to make that big transfer money coming in. We all know the money in the bank situation with Celtic as well, but we don't need to do this every season or in every window. We don't need to sell for big. But Nigel, I don't imagine is going to be one of those players that's going to be here long term. So yeah, let's see him have another great season and assess it in the hopefully in the summertime. I do get the comments coming through by the guys Seeger and the Truno boy Genetis. I'm really careful, guys, not to make it sound like an STD of female genitalia or something. It's going to be awkward if he does come because I'm going to have to try and figure out how to pronounce that. I think that's you 2 midfielders. If we get through the Champions League, I think that's 2 midfielders that we push ourselves out for. The left back is alone, so it's an easy option. And the goalkeeper, there's definitely a goalkeeper coming in. Whether or not we spend 4 or 5 million on one or not is what's going to be up for debate. I think anything after that is going to be a Brucey bonus. Left wing for me is what I would like because everybody keeps talking about Martin O'Neill as well. Don't count on Jota. So if Hassan's your right winger, you've got Forrest and Yang there. Duran's your utility through the front 3. Your left side is weak. Your Tanecki and Balakwisha. And Balakwisha is one of those names that we all forget about, but he's one of those casual names that could be sold this summer. You wouldn't notice. Left wing for me would be what I'd want to bring in. If we don't bring one in, there is enough players in Yang, Forrest, and Duran that could all cover, and Osmond as well can cover the left side if need be. But I think me and you mentioned this a week or 2 ago. I wouldn't be against a left wing loan of a caliber of player of, let's say, a Timothy Weah. Preferably with an option to buy, be that 9, 10, 11 million. Let's go for it. Of somebody of that caliber, that 19, 20-year-old who is lighting it up somewhere but not quite making it somewhere. Take that risk like we did with Edward. And bring somebody in who could spark something on the left side, because if they do, brilliant. If Jota comes back and takes the role, you've not lost anything, but you might also have gained something if Jota doesn't come back to play you expect him to.
I think the really important thing this transfer window is every player that's been brought in has strengthened the first 11.
Yeah.
Which has pushed the people that started last year down which means that the Tenekis and Luke McCowans are further away from starting. That's not a negative against these players, because these players should be further down the pecking order at Celtic, right? I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to them, because they both played a massive part in what we won last year. So I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but they should be much further down the pecking order. Having Luke McCowan in our squad, I'm not overly fussed about that. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. But we shouldn't be relying on him. We shouldn't be relying on Taneki.
No.
I think if we're going to get a loan, that's a good call. I think if we're going to get a loan, it's probably going to be towards the end of the window, because the English window shuts in the 1st and we shut in the 3rd. So I think there's going to be, see that 2 days, I think you could see some movement in players that aren't going to get a game in England.
Are they finishing as early as the 1st?
If it's not the 1st, it's definitely earlier than ours.
It's early, I definitely, because I'm always mindful. I think it was Gavin that kind of put me onto it a week or so ago, that the registration for the Champions League proper is actually midnight on the 2nd, but we've got that extra 17 hours till 5 o'clock on the 3rd. So anybody who we sign on deadline day isn't getting registered for the Champions League. So who are you going to sign that's going to be happy to be domestic squad player, basically? So we need to get all our work done before then, I think. And whoever comes in that time, you have to sell them something. That is it a loan for somebody just to get minutes in them that's going to go back down south or back abroad, wherever it is, or is it somebody that's happy to say, okay, I missed out on that, but I need game time? Maybe somebody who's on the wrong side of 30, perhaps, who's surplus to requirements down south, maybe just needs to find a club that's going to give him regular game time, even if it is just domestic football. But yeah, I feel left wing will be late in the window as well.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think there'll be. I think we'll definitely get keeper, left back, 1, possibly 2 centre mids, and then anything else will be like a loan towards the end of the window. And it'll probably be that kind of left wing position. It probably will be that kind of left wing position that we'll loan.
Aye, definitely. So tomorrow night's game against Lask, Champions League at home, obviously. Just seeing the comments of P. McLaughlin, a wee 5-1 win would be nice. It would be nice. Would it hurry up some of the signings? Possible. It might convince the board to confirm a signing or two that's kind of teetering on the edge, but you can never count your ducks. We do need to go away the week after. 4 goals looks comfortable, but you just never know in football, do you? We've got St Johnstone in the league away at the weekend. As I said, play Lask away next week as well. Falkirk at home, followed by Aberdeen at home in the league.
There's no league game. There's no league game on Saturday.
Has that been? Oh, that's the postponed one, isn't it? Yeah. Take that back, St Johnstone. We don't have that game. St Mirren in the league away before the double header against Rangers in the Cup, and then at home in the league. That Cup game obviously being brought around after the win at the weekend against Dundee United. Back-to-back Rangers game streams. How are you thinking of that this season compared to last season?
So I think Rangers are nowhere near as good as they were last year. And I don't think they were good last year. I think we were poor. I think we're better. I think we're playing better football. I think we're playing... I think I'll look at their central defence and I'll look at who and Duran, and I think we'll score goals. I look at their strikers, Nadiri. I'm going to say this and he'll probably score a hat-trick, but I think he looks like a big Haddy. He looks every inch a German 3rd division player. I'm sorry if that jinxes anything. Shankland, I don't know. There's also some shit going on there as well. When Shankland came on Sunday, Raskin wouldn't hand over the armband to him.
Really?
Shankland's a captain,
nice.
and Rask. So there's obviously a bit of that in there. I think Raskin thought he was going to go, and I think Rangers Rangers are always trying to compete with us, so they'll not want to sell him for any less than 25 million because that's what we got for Engels.
Aye, they've always tried to do that. Raskin get in the Belgium squad and Engels didn't, but
aye. So they think that means that they've got to get 25 million for him. When that's not how football works. It was like, remember they did it with Morelos. They had to keep knocking back fees for Morelos because it wasn't quite what we got for. For this club or that
unnamed
club.
Sources from unnamed clubs and unnamed planets.
Because it wasn't what we had got for Dembele, so they had to keep, and it was like, and so because of that, he ended up leaving for nothing.
Did they not end up giving him like 3 or 4 contract extensions? 6 months after 6 months after 6 months. It was like ridiculous just to try and please him. I don't believe for a minute that those bids existed. Funny enough, listening to Radio Scotland at some point over the weekend as well, I think it was Tom English who made this point as well. And he's quite happy, well, not happy, he's quite insistent to make the point that he hasn't any evidence of it and he wasn't saying this or that was definitely the case. But he did make the point of, if you did get offered 22 million for Chimiti, why didn't you sell him?
Aye.
What else were you waiting for, really?
100%. It's like, they've lost 10 to 15 million pounds every single year since they were shot into existence, and yet we're supposed to believe that they decided to knock back a more than 100% profit with they spending him £9 million. It's not as if he had a stellar year last year. He scored a couple of really good goals against us. He seems like a much like Engels. Engels to me was a real. He was a big game player when we played in Europe. Engels looked far better than he did when he was playing against St Mirren. I think that Sharmiti was kind of the same. He seems to come alive in big games. But if you've been offered £22 million for him, you might want more money, but you'll take him out the squad.
You take him out the squad, and you don't knock it back flatly. You negotiate. That's ongoing talks. That's intensifying talks. As the guys were saying in there as well in the chat, guys, leading up to the Rangers game, it's a month away. Let's be honest. It's a good chunk of games away. There's lots of games to be played before we get there. My big concern has always been for the last year or so, if not longer, that balance in the midfield. You've heard me all talk about Callum McGregor playing far too deep. He plays as a third centre back at times. Seemingly less so against Dundee United. But I think against United and Kilmarnock, that imbalance and that disjointed midfield that we've got is why we see United getting so many opportunities, and they actually dominated possession against us at 53 to 47%. But we've got time to get in guys like Sigur, the Torino boy Giannettis. And are they massively different to Engels? Probably not. Probably quite a similar player. Is Barrow quite similar to Hattati? Yes, he is. But could they all come in together and gel, play 5-6 games before the double header against Rangers, and suddenly your midfield looks a lot more settled and more balanced? Your backline, as you said earlier, James, looks okay just now. It's acceptable and passable. Yes, we want a better caliber of backup at left back. Yes, we would like better than Donovan and Ralston at right back as backup options. But on paper, you can put down a backline that is quite happy. And the front line is just going to keep getting better and better. I think we Hassan, we Duran on the wings, we Ho up front with Osmond, Yang, off the bench. I think they would be good. Forrest off the bench are good. So I think the three parts of our squad, defence, midfield and attack, I think that all do individually have the potential to be better than last season's. And if we get them all worked into the team, that double header against Rangers, if Derek McInnes has survived until then, I think we get him sacked.
I think we could.
If we settle into our rhythm by that point, I don't see anything from Rangers in the opening few games that remotely worries me at all. As many years have went by now, And I know Celtic have not been great in these games, but it's always about what version of Celtic has shown up. Nobody's ever worried about what version of Rangers shows up. It's about how great or poor Celtic are dictates how that game's going to go. So if we get our midfield in and organised before then, if McInnes isn't gone by then, I think that's a potential that we get him sacked.
So what you're saying then is it'll be Barry Ferguson back for after the international break.
Happy days. Get him sacked as well before Christmas. Right, James, it's been an hour and 20 minutes. We are almost at 9:30, so a wee bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but not unlike us to get to the kind of hour and 15, hour and 20 minute mark. That's all I've got for tonight, James. Anything that I've missed that you want to bring up that's been on your mind the last couple of days?
No, I'm fine. As I said before, I'll follow your lead. I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow in a way that I didn't look forward to many games last year. So I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. I think that people are taught. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but we took Sturm Graz apart last year.
Yeah.
And Sturm Graz finished, was it 4 points behind the LASK?
Aye, so a good few positions back, was it no?
Yeah, but it was only about 4 points.
4 points,
I might be wrong. I'd need to check that. Don't quote me. But we took them apart. We took them apart last year. So I'm not saying I'm not worried. Of course, I'm worried. But I think that it's doable.
2 points.
2 points, and they didn't finish. They didn't finish far behind them. And
first and second. It looks like the last 5 games, Sturm Graz just a couple of extra draws, whereas Lask got a run of a good few wins there.
And we took Sturm Graz apart last year at Celtic Park. So I think after memory the game was 2-1, but it was one of the 2-1s, and
going on 5 or 6.
Aye. If so, and I think that players like Hu and Duran will really thrive in Europe. I think that the atmosphere, Celtic Park under the lights, I think that these players will really thrive in it. So I'm not saying I'm not worried, because I'm always worried, but I'm looking forward to it.
Quick one then, something I wanted to do and I forgot, but it's the last thing we'll do before we log off. Line up for tomorrow night then. I take it we can assume Sinisalo own goals. I don't think Duhan's going to make a step up there. Carter Vickers and Trusty at centre-back, King Rotini at left-back. The question is Donovan or Ralston at right-back?
So I would go Ralston, not because I think he's a better player.
Just
because he's experienced and more dependable with that European experience. So I'd probably go Ralston at right-back. My midfield would be... Well, obviously, Oxlade Chamberlain can't play because he's suspended. So it'd probably be Cal, Bauer, and Ngrin.
Yep, agreed.
And I would probably have Yang, Hu, and Duran as my front three.
Yang, Hu, and Duran. I probably can't argue with that. A little bit of me wonders if Hassan might start, but I wouldn't want to contradict what I said earlier. I think he's more likely to be the first attacking sub to come on in the second half, sort of thing. He'll get more game time tomorrow night than he did at the weekend for sure. But yeah, I've pretty much starting 11. I can't think of anything other than that really being the starting 11. The Bricky. Ralston starts ahead of Donovan just purely on experience. You don't risk this game if you don't need to. Obviously, Alistair Johnson starts all day long if he was fit. But yeah, guys, in the chat, once again, always thank you for taking part. Thank you for being here, guys. Please do like, follow, subscribe, notifications, and all that jizzle jazzle that happens on YouTube. And we will see you next week. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.